Much for being here.
Thanks for having us, Chuck.
I want to talk to you guys about that mindset. It is ultra important, and it's something that I realized very early on when I finally was able to conquer those weight loss demons. Is that mind is about 80 to 90% of this thing, right? And so it means avoiding the pitfalls that we find ourselves going into, and that mindset I think is so important, like especially right out of the gate. You have to know what it is that you're looking for, what to look out for, I should say, lest you risk putting all that weight back on. That's how I've been able to keep off close to 300 pounds. But my wife texts me this yesterday, and I know that I shared this with you via email. And so I just wanted to bring this up on screen. And it is a guy whose motivation for losing weight was to eat Taco Bell. And so I did an Instagram about this, Dr. Rahman, and I want to ask you about this. I did an Instagram about this, and to me, why would you reward yourself with the very thing that put you in that position to have to lose weight in the first place? Like, I get it. He thinks that it's fun, it's exciting, but dude, if you're close to 300 pounds, your goal for losing weight shouldn't be to have Taco Bell bring back your favorite food. Your goal, in my estimation, from a former Taco Bell addict, should be to lose the weight and keep it off. I would love your opinion as a doctor on what do you think is going to happen when somebody's motivation is Taco Bell or that slice of cake or an entire pizza, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I think a lot of people sometimes feel that way that they motivate themselves to eat better, lose weight, take care of themselves, hoping to reward themselves with the very food that maybe contributed to the weight gain in the first place. And while that can seem tempting, it can also be risky because these highly processed foods are very addictive. They're high in sodium, they're high in sugar, they're high in added fat, so they will lead to weight gain. They will lead to those sugar cravings. They will lead to those salt cravings, and they're highly processed and have very little in terms of nutrients. And they're not particularly nourishing, so we'll just keep craving them, and it just sets us up again to fall back into that pattern.
And Karen, let me ask you this. I mean, so this guy's motivation was a very specific item. It was the stuffed nacho. And so this was the description from that article that NBC wrote up about this guy. The stuffed nacho is a triangle shaped tortilla that is stuffed with beef, sour cream, crunchy red tortilla chips, and cheesy jalapeno sauce. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, based off of what we just heard from Dr. Rahman, how addictive do you think this stuffed nacho
Extremely. Yeah, extremely. And, Chuck, in my experience, in, working with people who want to lose weight and in, having conversations with people who have lost a significant amount of weight, let's say 100 pounds, and kept it off for years and years, I always want to pick their brains in here. How did you do it? Right? Like, what are those mindset shifts that you made to not only lose the weight but keep it off for good? And I can say, across the board, that everyone who's maintained that significant amount of weight loss, I believe yourself included, right? Like, the person that you are today, Chuck, is not the same as far as like the way you think, the choices you make, the way you feel, as the person you were before your weight loss. And people just draw very, very clear and distinct lines of what the foods that are going to nourish them are, and are able to say, like, I'm not the type of person who eats fast food. And I have found in my experience that those are the people who have not just success with losing weight for a couple of months or maybe even a year, but for the long term and for their lifetime.
100% correct. And I think that the way that I've been able to explain it best to people is with a simple analogy, right? It's like, so if you are rewarding successful weight loss with, in this case, going to Taco Bell, to me, that is the exact same thing as rewarding sobriety by having a beer, or the fact that you've been able to stop smoking for a year by having a cigarette, right? What do you think the odds are that that person who had that beer or that cigarette are going to have another beer? or go out and buy a pack of cigarettes. And before you know it, all of the progress that they made has just gone out the window. I would say that it is extremely likely that that progress flies away. Why? Because it happened to me. I call it my one nacho theory. One time specifically, before I had long-term success, I had lost 60 some odd pounds in the short term, was feeling great, thought that I could have just one nacho and be okay, but I couldn't. That one nacho, dunked in that nacho cheese, led to another and another and another, and before you know it, I was right back to doing my daily laps through the Taco Bell drive-thru. And, so I just wish that more people thought of food along those terms and realized just how much you can get hooked on it, and that cravings are more than cravings. Like, it literally can be an addiction. But here's the other thing. It's like when you tell somebody this, it can also be jarring, because you're telling them, like, look, you can't eat this for the rest of your life. And it's a relationship, really, that you're asking somebody to really change. But I say change because it's not a complete breakup. Because one of the cool things that I've discovered along the way is that there are far healthier options of a lot of those favorite foods available. Ones that won't get you hooked, ones that don't pack on the fat and the calories, ones that are way, way, way healthier and better options overall. So you don't have to break up with these foods. The relationship just has to change. And I would argue every relationship that you've been in your entire life, food or otherwise, always evolves. So this is no different. So it's not a breakup, it's just changing it and changing your mindset along the way. Dr. Rahman, is that good advice? Is that something that you would tell your patients?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're craving Mexican food or Taco Bell, there are so many ways to make it at home and make it healthy. Try baking tortillas into chip-sized shapes, and that's delicious. And have it with refried black beans, and have it with lots of salsa on top. And it's just as satisfying, and it's so much more nourishing. So we can still enjoy these foods, but enjoy them in ways that they were traditionally enjoyed, that they were healthy without being so processed.
And last point before we move on and start taking some questions here, Karen, I want to come to you for this one. In the article, there is a line. I want to read this one verbatim as well. That just kind of, it irked me, because you have to keep in mind before I read this, that this gentleman didn't start dieting until last year, right? So the line says this: he yo-yo dieted for 10 to 15 years before launching his successful workout campaign for an obscure Taco Bell item. So to me, this gentleman has had great success. He's about a year and a half into it, but that is still well within the yo-yo dieting window. And so the way that I interpret that line in that article is this guy has been able to successfully cut the string on that yo-yo, but I think it's way too early to be able to make a statement like that. And unfortunately, that's misleading. And I think that a lot of people are going to get wrapped up in that, and they're going to say, oh, Taco Bell is the key to weight loss. I mean, am I off base there, Karen?
No, not at all, Chuck. And, Taco Bell hasn't brought back this item yet, correct? Like, what will happen? We don't know the answer to that. Like, what if they bring it back and he ventures out to Taco Bell? But in my experience, I've just seen this be a really slippery slope for people when they use the foods, as you've already alluded to, that have, been a source of weight gain for them as a reward, right? And so again, shifting that mindset. And something you touched on, Chuck, is that saying I can't ever have these foods again. Well, that's not entirely true. You can. You are making a conscious choice, and in recognizing that can be really empowering. Like, I am choosing to eat fruits and vegetables instead of Taco Bell, but recognizing that it's not like you can't. No one's forcing you. Like, it is a choice. Every bite of food we put in our mouth is a choice, and with that comes a lot of power.
Ooh, I like the way you put that. Every bite is a choice, and with that comes a lot of power. But that is a bumper sticker or a T-shirt at the very least. All right, I could talk about that one for days, but let's go ahead and open up the doctor's mailbag here. Start taking some questions, and as they're populating, I want to say hi to Denise and Annette and Zen, who are joining us live today. Denise, it's her first time catching a live show, so welcome. And then also, how about this? This is a great way to get the mailbag opened up today. DJ says that he's down from 450 already down to 390, and he's chasing my record. DJ, man, I'm pulling for you, man. So keep me updated on that. I wish you nothing but success, my friend. So keep on going. First question, Dr. Rahman, going to come to you for this one. It's from Jenny. It's a flat out blunt one. Which diet is best for weight loss?
Yeah, if we look at the research evidence, it's very clear that the best way to lose weight and keep it off long term is to eat a low-fat, plant-based diet. We know that many people lose weight, but then they often regain it, and that's what usually happens with a low-carb diet or a high-protein diet. These are what I call these fad diets. They work for a few months. I know I tried the South Beach diet, I lost weight, and then I just put it all right back on. But when we eat a low-fat, plant-based diet, research has shown that we not only lose the weight, but we keep it off, and that's because those foods actually nourish us. They give us fiber, they give us protein, they give us healthy fats, and they give us these healthy carbohydrates that really nourish us. So like black beans, baked tortillas, grilled vegetables, lots of fruits, any of those are great.
Amen to that. Karen, when somebody's asking what the best diet is and they throw out a bunch of names at you, keto, South Beach, low carb, bulletproof, high carb, low sugar, no fat, whatever the case may be, vegetarian, pescatarian, vegan, how do you break that all down for them?
It's simple, Chuck. I am a huge fan of calorie density. There's a ton of research on the topic of calorie density, and it is just math, right? Like there is no arguing what the calorie density is of potatoes or what the calorie density is of black beans or Brussels sprouts, right? It's just a number. All calorie density is, I describe it to people who come to me as like, let's go into your kitchen, let's take 10 different items that you have in your pantry or in your refrigerator, line them up on your table. If we had a food scale, we could weigh out the exact same weight of each of those items. So let's say we have a pound of each, and then we're just listing how many calories there are in that pound. And research is, quite clear in showing that when your average calorie density for your day is, slightly under 600 calories per pound, it's a wonderful strategy for weight loss. So what are the foods that are 600 calories per pound or less? They all happen to be whole plant foods. They're vegetables, fruits, legumes, and whole intact grains. Which is why, as Dr. Rahman said, a low-fat, plant-based diet works so well for weight loss. Low-fat, plant-based foods, again, those veggies, those fruits, the legumes, and the whole intact grains are all low in calorie density.
All right, so we're talking about whole foods there, Karen. I want to stick with you for a question from Ann, but what about ultra-processed foods? Do all of them cause weight gain, or is it just the ultra-processed foods that also happen to be high in fat?
Yeah, so they're all high in calorie density, and I love showing people examples of this, right? Like you might take a granola bar, or some kind of, there's so many bars out there, right? And they might like look so appealing in their marketing of being, maybe including some whole grains or maybe having some fruits in there. And on the label, it might say one bar is, let's say, 120 calories. But when you figure out the calorie density, how many calories there would be in a pound of that item or whatever weight you're using to compare, they are all high. Like we're talking, 1,200 to 1,600 calories per pound, which is much, much greater than that 600 calories per pound that really helps with weight loss.
Dr. Rahman, coming to you for this one. I've heard this one a lot too. Christine is wondering how often a person should eat in order to lose weight. She says she's been told 2 to 3 hours is she should be eating every 2 to 3 hours. Is there truth to that?
I think there's been a lot written up about meal timing and about intermittent fasting. I think the most important thing is really the quality of the food we're eating. We really do want to eat healthy foods like the plant foods we've been talking about, minimally processed, low caloric density. And then if you want to work on the timing, that's sort of the bonus. That's like the bonus question on the test. But the most important thing is to get that food to be a high quality plant food. The one thing I would say is it's important to not eat late at night. So really avoid eating, within a few hours of bedtime. And also, if people are going to practice intermittent fasting, it's important to do it earlier in the day, so 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. as opposed to 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. But most important, more than the timing, is just eating that good quality food.
I feel like when you get into meal timing and fasting, I mean that can be a really detailed kind of conversation. You can get lost in the weeds of that, and I worry sometimes that we have a tendency to overcomplicate things when it comes to getting healthy and losing weight. When you're working with patients, do you prescribe the keep it simple method, or do you really like to delve into as much detail as possible with that?
I like to keep it simple. I think eating is simple. It's a primitive requirement that we eat, and we should eat if we're hungry. That is the only reason to eat. So if we can align our meal timing to our hunger, that's ideal. Forcing ourselves to eat when we're not hungry is not a good idea. So just keep it simple. When you're hungry, reach for healthy foods. They nourish you, they keep you satiated, and you're likely to stay full for a while.
All right, Karen, a lot of people trying to lose weight, they gravitate toward diet soda. Why? 0 calories. So Rebecca is wondering whether diet soda should help you lose weight.
No, it does not. And in fact, it's the opposite in studies, looking at diet sodas and weight loss. Um, there are none that I'm aware of that show that they are helpful, and they do the opposite, right? And whether it's the fact that the artificial sweeteners in soda are multitudes, sweeter tasting than sugar, which, kind of fools our brain into thinking that, we're still having sugar, even though there aren't those calories, and having, strong cravings for sweet foods, or how they impact our microbiome in a way that might not be great for weight loss. You know, choosing water, again, keeping it simple, water should be, our beverage of choice.
I want to stick with you. This is a question that comes up a lot for people who are losing weight. Is it possible to do that while still maintaining muscle mass? A question from Sebastian at 1212. Karen, how do I lose fat while maintaining muscle mass while eating a whole food plant-based diet?
Oh yeah, I love that question. And there's Sebastian, absolutely. If you've not seen the movie The Game Changers on Netflix, highly recommended. And seeing these plant-based athletes who are working extremely hard. So that's the first key point is that in order to build muscle, maintain muscle mass, you have to use your muscles. You have to be working them and doing the types of physical activity to keep your muscles strong, and that's important. And at the same time, eating a plant-based diet is a great way to fuel our bodies to get the nutrients we need, including protein, which often is a concern for people. Plenty of protein in plants, and they're coming packed full of antioxidants, lots of vitamins and minerals, and all the fiber as well. But primarily for building and maintaining muscle mass, it's really important to be doing the work that's required, with that physical activity.
Dr. Rahman, I'm wondering if you can comment on this. We have somebody in the chat room right now who is saying that there are healthy foods even that they still can't control, referencing specifically nuts. They also mentioned cheese. That's debatable. But just specific to nuts and I guess other high-fat foods like avocados. When it comes to weight loss and maybe somebody's having a hard time controlling their portions with those, what kind of advice could you offer?
Yeah, this is so important. So certain plant foods are high in fat, nuts, and nut butters, whether it's almonds, walnuts, cashews, pecans, or their butters, or same with seeds like chia, pumpkin, flax, avocado, olive, coconut, chocolate. These are all high fat foods. And if you're looking to lose weight, it's really important to minimize them. Because getting back to what Karen said earlier, the caloric density of an ounce of nuts is so much higher than an ounce of broccoli. So if you're trying to lose weight, I usually tell people limit those high-fat foods like nuts, nut butters, chia seeds, flax seeds, all those seeds, or seed butters like tahini, avocados. to, just a couple of tablespoons a day. And I don't mean of each one, but combined, because we don't need that much of them, and their caloric density does lead to weight gain.
All right, you want a 201 level question then? I have to follow
Go
up. It's a
for
201. Okay, here it is. So you're talking about limiting chia and flax then. While somebody's trying to lose weight and they're really limiting those, what are some other good sources of omega-3s to make sure that they're getting an adequate amount?
Yeah, so we don't need as much omega-3s. There's been so much written up about omega-3s, but we actually don't need as much as people think we do. A tablespoon of flax or chia a day is more than enough for most people. Some people could even just have half a tablespoon, and that could be enough. So we don't really need to worry about these. You can try things like flax milk too in your cereal that's loaded with omega-3. So there's been a lot written up about it, but if we look at our own government's website, the NIH, they tell us very clearly there's no documented case of omega-3 deficiency in the US, because if we don't have enough, our body sort of breaks down its own fat cells to release the omega-3. So not a big cause for concern.
Very interesting. I guess you're kind of hinting that you may be able to throw omega-3s in that same category as protein and nutrients that people tend to worry a little bit too much about. That's interesting. I did not know that. That's why I say, man, you raise your health IQ with every show. It's so good. Question from Mommy Vegan Nummy. Karen, this one sounds frustrating, so hopefully you can help her out here. At 12-13, she says, my BMI is normal, weight stays stagnant, but my belly fat is still there. It's not growing, it's not shrinking, it's just there. What can she do about this?
Yeah, I feel like that's a common question and frustration I hear from many women that I meet with. And a couple of things that I would want to know more about is like, what are the specific foods that you're eating? And again, relating back to that calorie density and really optimizing the consumption of the lowest calorie density foods, right? Meaning the non-starchy vegetables and fruits, the legumes, and the whole intact grains. And then also looking, at physical activity, although the food component, the nutrition component, I feel first and foremost is most important. And taking into consideration other factors in life like stress and how they might be, how stress might be playing a role in somebody's journey to weight loss. If in fact nutrition is like spot on, however tough like that, often I can't think of one time where there wasn't room for improvement, right? And so taking a look again at those low calorie density foods, how many non-starchy vegetables are you eating in a day? And is there room to include more of those? Can you start your meal by eating some non-starchy vegetables or fruits first to help offset the consumption of some of the higher calorie density foods later? And then again, really taking a look at where fats are coming into the diet, in particular, if it's animal foods, of course, moving those off the plate, and oils, and really minimizing or avoiding them altogether.
All right, we have to pause and take a quick second to recognize another tremendous weight loss success. Rachel Miller at 1218 just posted in the chat, I've lost 50 pounds due to this podcast. Rachel, that is phenomenal. I am so happy for you. So if you have more to go, keep on going. I have no doubt that you're going to reach your goal. That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that with us. It just gets me fired up. Here we go. Sticking with you, Karen, a question from Margaret. You were just talking about starches. Well, here's a starchy one for you. Should you avoid rice when you're trying to lose weight because it has a lot of calories? And yeah, rice does have a surprising number of calories in it.
So what makes you say that, Chuck?
The nutrition label when you look at it?
Yeah, so think about that nutrition label, right? What do you do to rice? Like you're at the nutrition label and you're measuring however much you're going to consume of rice, or however much you're going to boil. What do you add to it?
Well, I add water, and I call it good. A lot of people add butter or oil or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, you answered with what I was looking for, water, right? We hydrate those whole intact grains, and that is what helps reduce the caloric density. So if you have rice, all rice without the addition of butters and oils. We're just talking about the rice on its own. When cooked, is a low calorie density food. It's far below, 600 calories per pound, and absolutely something that, I encourage people to include, along with other whole grains, along with potatoes. Those starches are what help fill us up and satiate us, and are some of the best sources of fiber. And we know that fiber is wonderful for feeding our, microbiome, and also for weight loss. Boosting our fiber intake is really important.
Is that the threshold for low calorie for you? Is 600 calories per 100 pounds or 1 pound of food? Is that what the floor is?
That's what research suggests, Chuck. Absolutely, that it's just slightly below 600 calories per pound is a calorie density that really sets people up for success with weight loss.
I had not heard that until today. Again, we're learning. Dr. Rahman, coming to you, question about sugar, natural sugars actually, from Linda. Should you avoid sweet potatoes since they have a lot of sugar?
Yeah, so let's differentiate between sugars that are naturally found in food and sugars that are added to food. So all fruits and some vegetables have sugar that's naturally found in them, like sweet potatoes, carrots. They're slightly sweet because of that sugar in it. And that is usually not a problem, because when we're eating that sweet potato, sure, we're getting some of the sugar that's naturally found in it, but we're also getting starch, which should be the primary source of calories. We're also getting a lot of fiber. We're getting a lot of vitamins and other nutrients. So it's not the same as adding a spoonful of sugar to something. And sweet potatoes are great. Enjoy them.
Christina is watching us from Japan today. Hi, Christina. Thanks for checking in all the way over there. That's awesome. Sticking with you, Dr. Rahman, question from Tim. Is diet or exercise more important?
Oh, for weight loss, it's clearly diet. And it's all in the numbers. So it takes about an hour of walking to burn about 100 calories. How quickly can we consume 100 calories? Minutes. We can have half a candy bar or granola bar literally in 30 seconds, and that's a few hundred calories right there. So while exercise is great and everybody should get regular exercise, it's good for our heart, our lungs, our well-being, we absolutely need it. For weight loss, how much we eat or what we eat is much more important, because we do that all day long, whereas exercise is usually an hour or two at the most.
All right, Karen, coming to you for this one, and it is a doozy of a question from Denise at 1221. Should someone looking to drop weight, should they be counting calories even if they're eating a whole food plant-based diet?
Oh, great question, Denise. And I'm glad that you're bringing that up. I think it depends on the person, and that some people have a lot of success in using some type of food journal, whether it be writing down what they're eating or using an app like Chronometer to just keep a record of what they're eating, which will include, using an app like that, the calories. And for some people, that gives them kind of just like a baseline, and maybe bring some awareness to what their food choices are. And certainly not something I recommend people do every day for the rest of their lives. But in some cases, I feel, and in a lot of cases, like at least in the beginning when you're starting out, using some kind of, tracker, food logger, app, or whatever it might be, just to bring some awareness. Often, and I include myself in this, like I can consume calories that I forget about, if I'm not being mindful. And that's where I think that tracking can be helpful. It certainly isn't necessary for everyone, and I would say that when you're looking at consuming those whole plant foods, that it really isn't so necessary. That the studies show, like, you can't eat too many fruits and vegetables in a day when it comes to weight loss. And at the same time, right, like it can bring awareness and help people see that, oh yeah, I forgot that I added that tablespoon of oil.
But when it comes to tracking, like where is the line, Karen, when it comes to doing good versus it becomes an obsession, in which case it can be detrimental to a person's health?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like I take this on, everybody's different and wanting to figure out like how it might be helpful for someone, right? And again, I think in what's most helpful is just in raising that awareness to see where there might be opportunities for change or opportunities for improvement, to move forward and make progress. And certainly not something, again, that should be necessary day in and out. I mean, as Dr. Rahman alluded to, like eating when we're hungry, eating until we are satiated, using those hunger cues, and becoming more familiar with them and aware of what our body needs, I think is ideally the goal for most people.
All right, we have time for a few more. Dr. Rahman, coming to you. Question from JL. Oh man, this is another doozy. They're piling them on now. What if you're hungry late at night? What can you do?
This is a common problem. I think many of us, including me, struggle with this. So the first question to ask is, am I really hungry? Sometimes late night eating just becomes a habit. Um, and it gets associated with certain cues like watching TV or walking through the kitchen late at night. So changing our bedtime ritual can be helpful. One thing that I like to do is do this broccoli test, and I ask myself, if I'm really hungry, I will eat some steamed broccoli right now. And as you can guess, I'm rarely hungry for steamed broccoli late at night, so I know that it's not real hunger. So you can try that. But if you are truly hungry and you say, yeah, that steamed broccoli is really calling to me right now, then that's fine to have. It's a low calorie density snack. It's fine to enjoy it. But the most important thing is really distinguishing between real hunger and sort of this habitual habit of just eating late at night. And that's the one we really want to avoid.
The broccoli test. That is an amazingly simple but extraordinary piece of advice. Oh my gosh. The next time I get the munchies a little bit late, I'm gonna wonder that. That is A plus. That, I mean, geez Louise. Just wow. That's why you're the doc. Huh? Okay, here we go. Sticking with you. Question from Susan, going back to food addiction here. Specifically peanut butter. She says she's a peanut butter addict. What are your thoughts on PB2 as a substitute? Is that too processed for someone's diet?
Peanut butter done.
Yeah.
So PB2 refers to peanut butter powder, and PB2 is a specific brand, but many brands make peanut butter powder, and they come in different forms. You just have to be careful. Some have added sugar to them, some have defatted the peanuts, so they're lower in fat. So I think the question is pertaining to the lower fat versions where they've been defatted, but you have to be careful. They could still have added sugar. I think even though it is lower in fat, it's still a high fat snack. So while it may be lower in fat than traditional peanut butter, I would say maybe try something else instead, for what you're using your peanut butter. Because I fear for someone trying to lose weight and struggling with peanut butter addiction, it may just reinforce it. So try some other spreads, like an eggplant spread or a hummus, other things that could be lower in fat and more nourishing.
Karen, coming to you. Hopefully you can clear up a little confusion for Rebecca. Posted this one at 12:28. Rebecca is wondering whether whole food plant-based carbs really do turn into fat if you eat too many of them.
Sure. I mean, if we are consuming too many calories,
Good job.
above what our body needs, yes, right? Like excess calories will cause weight gain. And that said, when we're focusing on
Yes,
those whole plant foods,
Stretch and cool down.
again, like really honing in on the low calorie density ones, it's challenging to consume too many of them, because if you think about the calorie density of non-starchy vegetables, for example, being just 100 calories per pound on average, right? Like imagine how many pounds of non-starchy vegetables you have to eat in a day to exceed, the calories that you're buying. Like that's impossible. Can you eat 20 pounds of vegetables in a day, Chuck?
I mean, no. To be perfectly,
Yeah.
I mean, try as I might, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, so I know I keep coming back to the calorie density, but it's such a beautiful and simple concept to follow, because people on average eat about the same weight of food every day. There's research that suggests that, right? And so if we're eating, 4 pounds of food a day, just favoring those low calorie density foods, again, the fruits, the vegetables, the whole intact grains, which I should clarify, like there is a difference between, wheat berries and whole wheat bread. The whole wheat bread is going to be about 3 times as calorie dense as that intact grain from which it's made. And your legumes, right? And your starchy vegetables that, because they are, considered low in calorie density, it's hard, right? I would say, to overconsume those foods. Maybe paying more attention to some of the foods that are a little bit closer to 600 calories per pound, and again, just really focusing on where some of the higher calorie density foods, whether it's processed foods, animal foods, like oils, are coming into your diet.
All right, and really quickly, I think your cat may be hungry. I think that's what's happening there. Karen, a question.
You are right.
Question from Marina. I absolutely love potatoes, she says. Can I eat them every day and still lose weight?
Yeah, what a fun experiment to try, right? And that's like one of the other things I love. It's like, how about you test it out? Like, let's see how that goes, right? Absolutely, potatoes are a low calorie density food. A great source of fiber. They are extremely satiating, right? So again, something that helps to satisfy us, help us feel full, for few calories. When you're looking at that calorie density chart, potatoes are about 400 calories per pound.
There you go. That falls under that 600 bar. That's phenomenal. All right, final question is from Mary. Dr. Romano, I want to start with you. If you could be specific here and give us some specific foods, that would be fantastic. Mary is wondering, what are the best foods for weight loss?
Yeah, so many great options there, Mary. I think of foods in 4 categories: so grains, legumes, fruits, and vegetables. So go to town with the vegetables. They're all great. Sweet potatoes, broccoli, anything. Just avoid frying them. You can steam them, you can bake them, you can eat them raw, whatever you prefer. And fruits are terrific. So any
Good
fruit
job.
is wonderful,
Bye-bye.
frozen, fresh. I don't